Hey, welcome back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, we'll also have a look at the flooding that occurred over the weekend. And also, we'll have a look at some of the indexes in terms of the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation have gone very positive. So quite a bit for this video. But before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's these particles on all pages that Gas Lovers have a browse widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages. Say open up the content when you watch it, they'll close back up again. That's how we pay. For the website and the shop is open, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click through the Amazon banners and it'll take you direct to Amazon when you do Christmas shopping. Because going from Gas Lovers to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things that you are purchasing. Thanks very much for doing that. So this is an image from Keswick over the weekend where we had some very devastating flooding indeed across Cumbria and southern southwestern parts of Scotland. See major flooding going on there. We had some very big rainfall totals from Saturday into Sunday in the north and the west of the country. So this is from netweather.tv via Weather Online, and the wettest place in a 24-hour period, remember it's just 24 hours, midnight Saturday to midnight Sunday, was Shap, which came out with 201 millimetres in the space of 24 hours. Keswick, where we had all of that severe flooding, came out with 136 millimetres in a 24-hour period from midnight Saturday to midnight Sunday. These are huge rainfall totals. So we're talking about 8 inches of rain there, 200 millimetres, that's around 8 inches of rain. 136 millimetres is over, I think it's over 5 millimetres, so 25 millimetres to an inch, so it's over 5 millimetres, getting on towards 5.5 inches, I should say, in Keswick. And as I say, around 8 inches of rain in Shap in a 24-hour period. Now that's very high up, but Keswick is low down. Just 81 metres above the sea. So huge rainfall totals over the weekend. And that is the reason we've had that severe flooding in the north and the west of the country. And there's going to be more rain to come, I'm afraid, over the next week or so. Particularly, I think, at the weekend where we may do it all over again. Not in terms of gales, but certainly we'll get some heavy rain, I think, in the north over the weekend. As well as being very wet, it's also exceptionally mild. So the central temperature for December so far stands at 10.5. That's provisional up to the 6th, up to yesterday. That's an anomaly of over 5 degrees above average, and suffice to say, if that was to continue to the end of the month, I don't think it will, but if it did, it would easily be the warmest December on record. I think we may be seeing signs of some cooler weather, though, just after the middle part of the month. Maybe a bit drier as well, perhaps building a bit of high pressure in for a while. Mind you, high pressure is going to have its work cut out to sustain itself at the moment, because we've got such a cold stratosphere over the North Pole, which implies a very strong polar vortex. So these this is the stratospheric temperature at 10 HPA, right in the top of the atmosphere over the North Pole. We've got the dates along the bottom of this chart, and the temperatures are along the side. So this black line is telling us where we currently are in terms of the temperature in the stratosphere over the North Pole. The grey line is the average for the time of year. And, well, you can see we are well below that grey line, so we are significantly colder than you would expect us to be in terms of the stratospheric temperature at this time of the year. That could almost be getting on for record-breaking cold levels, actually. I've not looked to see whether that's a record-breaking cold stratosphere over the North Pole, but it's certainly got to be getting down towards that sort of level, a very, very cold stratosphere over the North Pole, which enhances the polar vortex, and the polar vortex increases the westerlies then through the mid-latitudes. So this is the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart from NOAA in America, and we can see the black line is telling us where the Arctic Oscillation has been, the red line is where we're forecast to go. Remember, the Arctic Oscillation is an index that reflects the state of the atmosphere over the pole, so when it's very positive, it's telling us that we've got a strong polar vortex, strong westerlies through the mid-latitudes. Conversely, when the Arctic Oscillation is negative, is telling us that we've got blocking over the pole and probably bringing down cold air into the mid-latitudes via northerly and easterly winds. So we looked at this last week. Since around middle of October, just here, we've gone positive with the Arctic Oscillation. And still very positive. That's the main story at the moment. Not surprising with such a cold stratosphere over the pole. And the red lines here, the forecast part of the chart, showing that we're likely to stay positive with the Arctic Oscillation up to the middle of December at least. There is a trend downwards a little bit, perhaps into the second half of the month. But as I say, with such a cold stratosphere over the pole, I think we really will struggle to sustain high pressure, particularly over the pole, but possibly even through the mid-latitudes at the moment. The North Atlantic Oscillation, which again is an index reflecting the state of the atmosphere through the Atlantic Ocean this time, well, that's been really, really positive. I think we're virtually at a record-breaking level in terms of the positivity of the NAO over the weekend. So again, this tells us that we've got a strong westerly flow through the Atlantic with low pressure around ice and high pressure through the Azores, and the squeeze between the two bring those westerlies through. So again, the black line where we've been with the NAO, the red line's where we're forecast to go. This is where we've been just recently. You can see we've been exceptionally positive with the NAO over the past few days. We have got a trend downwards, but only down to more sort of sensible levels of a positive NAO, if you like. There's no sign of going negative. This is the negative part of the scale. Just here, no sign yet that we go down into that level. We just see a trend from this almost record-breakingly positive NAO down to something a little bit more sensible, really, as we're going up to the middle part of the month. But all the indexes really are telling us that we've got big, strong westerly winds, as we know, and that's why it's been so wet in the north and west, very windy at times as well, but exceptionally mild. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks looking like this. So we do have a bit of a trend downwards, actually. We're starting off still exceptionally mild. The red line here being the 30-year temperature average. So we go down closer to average through the second half of this week and generally stay there, not going up to this sort of level of exceptional warmth, but still generally above average, really, with the trend of the ensemble. Although as we get to the second half of the month, again, dates along the bottom, second half of the month just here, we have got a lot of scatter there. So a few of those members are going quite cold, certainly for a time over weekend into the start of next week, but probably wouldn't last all that long. And I'm afraid there's a lot more precipitation still to come, so loads of spikes coming through here. This is the ensemble for London. If we have a quick look at the ensemble for Manchester, that's a bit closer to where we've had all of that severe flooding, of course. I can show you the ensemble for Manchester. And again, lots of precipitation spikes showing up there, particularly later on this week and into the weekend. I'm a bit concerned about the weekend just there. For northern England in particular. I think there could be some very wet weather again up in the north. Let's have a look at the generic charts, and this is the GFS for Friday. We'll turn a bit cooler on Friday as we bring down this northwesterly flow. That doesn't last very long, and this is the low pressure I'm a bit concerned about for the weekend. This one just here coming in off the Atlantic. There's a lot of very warm air associated with that again being dragged up from the central part of the Atlantic, and I think we're going to get a weather front strung out here over the weekend, and again it's probably going to be somewhere close to northern England where we've had all of that flooding. So as we go through into Sunday, we can see the evidence of that. This is one sort of area of low pressure running along that weather front. This is another one just here, and between the two, close to where this black line is, actually, there is a weather front with waves running along it, strung out, probably bring pulses of heavy rain through northern England in particular. To the north it's quite cold, so I wouldn't rule out some snow for southern parts of Scotland over the weekend. To the south of it, very mild air being dragged up from the south once again. Now that low pressure should get out of the way as we move through into the start of next week. And then we go cooler and try and build a bit of high pressure in. So this is taking us to the middle part of next week. Quite a complicated pattern, but we've got a southerly tracking jet stream, or the jet stream beginning to go a little bit more southerly tracking just here, with high pressure trying to form to the north of the country. And it's just going to be how close this low pressure gets to us, really, as to whether it brings another dollop of heavy rain through the middle part of next week. But as we go through the second half of next week, we temporarily bring down this cold northerly as this ridge starts to topple in from the west, and then we do start to generate a bit of high pressure. So as we go out beyond day 10, this takes us to Friday the 18th of December, starting to run up towards Christmas. We are building up in a bit of high pressure, so that would start to dry things out a bit. Still quite mild air coming in around that high pressure, so that little colder snap around day 10 doesn't last too long, turns milder again, but at least it would be a bit drier there running up towards Christmas. The east WF very similar, so here's that cooler northwesterly wind coming down across the country for the end of the week. Into the weekend, again, low pressure is trying to come in. This is a bit different, though, with that low pressure. So running it through the country, it starts to take it up to the north and the west, and still keeps us generally under a bit of a ridge over the weekend. So that's better. We won't have to worry too much about flooding on that sort of a scenario. As we go through to the start of next week, still quite a lot of high pressure influences. So the ECMWF is significantly drier than the GFS for the weekend into the start of next week. Not quite sure what's going on with this area of low pressure just here. But generally high pressure closer to us over the weekend and into next week from the ECMWF. Would be colder, though, with the risk of night frost. And by day 10, we're actually starting to take that high pressure up towards Scandinavia a little bit, possibly bringing some easy winds. That's a bit of a strange run, given what's going on with the cold stratosphere and also the indexes, the AO and the NAO. Not sure about that. I would probably, unfortunately, go more with the GFS, which is significantly more unsettled for the end of the week into the weekend and start of next week. It's significantly more unsettled and wetter, but it probably makes more sense, really, given what's going on with the atmosphere at the moment, than the ECMWF, which is quite settled. It's good news for flooded areas, but it's probably unlikely to be as high pressure dominated as that. But as we get through to day 10, which is sort of the middle of next week, we may well be seeing first signs of some high pressure building through, which could give us a few days of drier and possibly a little bit colder weather as well. Alright, that's it for now, and thanks for watching.